think, how did I do that? How did we get through that? But I think, with just good communication and working together.
And family values. We treat our businesses, the customers that walk in the door are extended family.
A mother's love in the heart of the Poconos. Welcome to Pocono Mountains Podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Jim Hamill. This is episode 7 of season 5. We're about to say goodbye to April and hello, May, a month when we celebrate Mother's Day. We are fortunate to have so many stories from across the Poconos of moms who've made our region what it is. From the mother-daughter team of gardeners at Woodloch Resort we introduced you to a few years ago, to the mother-daughter duo in Stroudsburg's downtown, at Pocono Soap and Main Street Makery. That story will be on the May edition of Pocono Mountains magazine with Brianna. More on that in a bit. The Poconos is a year-round destination for millions, with 2,400 square miles of mountains, lakes, forests, and rivers, with historic downtowns and iconic family resorts. It's the perfect getaway. You can always find out more at PoconoMountains.com or watch PTN, the Pocono Television Network, streaming live 24/7. Now, back to the episode. Pocono Soap and Main Street Makery are two beloved, long-standing small businesses in downtown Stroudsburg. Brianna spoke with the mother-daughter duo behind them. Enjoy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pocono Mountains Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brianna Strunk. It is the month of May, so of course, all about the moms. We're celebrating Mother's Day, and we figured there's no better mother-daughter duo to talk to than Lisa Deemer and Amanda Beam, the owners and operators between two long-standing successful businesses here in downtown Stroudsburg. So we have a lot to talk about with them. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. It's so exciting.
Or I guess thanks for having us, because we're sitting in one of your businesses right now, the Main Street Makery, formerly known as Kitchen Chemistry, in downtown Stroudsburg. All right, so we'll get to, everything about your businesses in just a minute. But first, tell us how you got started before opening the Main Street Makery and Pocono Soap just a few blocks away. What's your story of becoming this mother-daughter duo in downtown Stroudsburg?
Oh boy, it's an interesting story for sure. I'll try to keep it short, but pretty much you opened up Kitchen Chemistry in what year?
2010.
2010, and I was working in full-time job elsewhere, and it kind of evolved from classes, which is what you originally did, right? Taught classes and everything, and started to become a bakery. And I hopped on a few years later after I had my kids, wanting to work with my family and have a little bit more flexibility. And then we needed more space. So we were looking for location.
Right. So how that happened, though, was I actually took Pocono Soap as a location to keep my extra flour, sugar, things like that there, because stores were closing before. If we ran out of eggs, I couldn't run over to the local restaurant supply. So I got another little location so that we can keep extra supplies. Amanda walked in, and I'm thinking I'm going to have an office and everything, okay? Amanda walks in, and she's like, "Mom, we got to turn this. We'll teach the soap classes over here." And then a couple of months later, and then, of course, my office was gone and everything else because she had this little idea. A couple of months later, unfortunately, we had not a fire, but a smoke. One of the air conditioners malfunctioned here, and the whole store filled with smoke, and everything got destroyed. So we had to redo this. So then Amanda said, "I'll just sell soap over there and make a little gift shop until this store opens up again." But it took on a life of its own.
It really did. We thought we would be open just a day or two on the weekend, sell soap supplies, teach soap classes, and we had a few books and things like that, and it just started to grow and grow and grow. And then while this business was closed after the fire, then I had time to kind of nurture that. And so it really seemed like a nice split to kind of get the soap stuff over there and all the baking stuff here. And that was like 11 years ago.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
So when you first opened here, Main Street Makery, but formerly Kitchen Chemistry,
Right.
You were doing classes primarily, selling supplies for other people.
Right. And then selling just cupcakes, no cakes or anything like that, just strictly cupcakes and the supplies and the classes.
Okay, so then over time, opening Pocono Soap a few blocks away. What were you doing previously, Amanda? You said you were in a different career, and were you really into like soap making, or what got
No,
you
I
into that?
remember her making soap when I was a kid and teaching classes, and I thought it was gross. I was like, I'm using this chemical-filled body wash or whatever. Just maybe it was rebellion. I don't know. So no, I was not. That my previous experience was in retail, but I was upper management in big corporation retail. So it was an entirely different mindset than running a small business. But when I went into the store, all that past experience came flooding in, and I realized we can do something with this. There's a need here for retail in Stroudsburg. And so that was definitely, I wouldn't have been able to do what I did with Pocono Soap if I didn't work in my past jobs, for sure.
So tell us about the evolution of Pocono Soap, what it became and what it is today.
Oh, wow. It is wild. Like I said, when we look back on pictures, and we just had a few things on the shelf, and we had a few shelves of things, and of mostly soap making supplies, and we just kept getting a little bit more, and we kept growing in popularity. Teaching classes there was great, because that would, when things were slow in the beginning, that would, cause traffic to come in and kind of say, oh, there's something here, like, and they would buy gifts and other things. So we expanded our offerings and what we were making and selling. We were selling our soap, of course, but then we took on body scrubs and hand creams and lotions and other things that were popular, and the candles, of course. So everything was just very steadily growing. So that's, as a small business, that's all you can ask for, honestly. And then we took a kind of huge growth spurt a few years ago, and we stopped doing classes completely at the Pocono Soap, and she does them here now. So we pretty much don't do a lot of the things we started doing at Pocono Soap, but I think that's just how small business is, and you have to evolve.
And Pocono Soap is such a destination. I mean, during events, you always have lines out the doors. Whenever I know people who come to Stroudsburg and they say they've got to stop at Pocono Soap, you really have become this destination.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it is really wild. We have some diehard fans who show up for everything, and we try to get excited about stuff because, I mean, it is something to celebrate being in business for this long as a small business when things are difficult. So I try to, when we have an anniversary or we're releasing scents or things like that, we make a big deal about it.
And what was it about downtown Stroudsburg, starting with you, Lisa, you opening here downtown? I mean, we're always promoting our small towns in the Poconos. There's so much to do with like shops, eateries, wineries, breweries. But what was it about Stroudsburg that you guys wanted to open here?
Well, my kids grew up in Stroudsburg. They went to Stroudsburg School District and everything like that. And, this was a dream of mine since I'm 20. I always wanted to have a cake decorating supply store and teach classes. That's how I always wanted it. And for some reason, I read some kind of thing where you have to make a vision board and this whole thing. And it's kind of crazy because I did make a vision board. They said you have to set a date. So I did it for March. It was my 50th birthday. And I created this thing. And then all of a sudden, there was another bakery in town that went out of business. And I went there to look at the location, and it was just so tiny. And I was like, I could never even fit a table in here to teach a class. And I really wanted to teach classes more than have a bakery. So it just kind of snowballed. The real estate agent said, well, we have a spot down on Ann Street. Didn't really like it. So then they said, well, we have this other spot that's opening up in 2 months. And I looked at it, and this was this place. And I walked in, and it just felt like home. I couldn't believe it. And then it just snowballed. So I look back at the vision board, and it is mind-boggling. I wish I brought it in today because it literally, there's one picture in there that the front of the store looks exactly like what kitchen chemistry used to look like. It was amazing.
That gave me goosebumps.
It's crazy. It was really crazy. So you do have to set those goals, and you have to put a timeline on it. Otherwise, it's just a dream. So you have to do it. But I do want to mention that my beautiful daughter here, she was an entrepreneur since she was a little kid. She had a refrigerator box in her room. There was not a relative or a visitor. She didn't care who it was. My husband's friends, everybody. They had to come in and buy her little fuzzy bears.
and all sorts of things. Yeah, they bought a refrigerator, and I looked at the box, and I was like, we're going to cut a door in this, and this is a store.
And she put little corner shelves in there.
So not forever, it was like a few months, but it was just the point of, and I set up a table, and then it was like, I made everybody buy stuff.
Amazing. So that's where it started.
That's where it started.
Sure.
And, you know, I'm originally from New York, if you can't tell. And we used to go visit my parents back in Queens. And then there's this big hour-and-a-half ride all the time. And Amanda and I used to fantasize where she would start out, where I would have my bakery, and she would have a pet store right next door. And we would be able to visit each other and things like that. Well, she realized she's not into pets that much. She loves her pets, but not that much. And then the soap shop, it literally is a manifestation. I don't know what to say, but we've been talking about that since she's like 7 or 8 years old.
Wow.
And when the timing was right, it happened.
Yeah. And I didn't realize this, Lisa. So your 50th birthday, you kind of made this happen.
It was my 50th birthday.
And you are from New York City. What is your background? Like, were you a cake decorator in New York City? Or I know you said you always loved like baking in classes, but where did that come from?
Well, when I was 8 years old, I was sitting in my second grade class, and my dad had just got a job moonlighting in a local bakery. And he would bring home these cupcakes with these pink roses and these leaves. And I would literally sit in the class, and the teacher was like Charlie Brown's teacher. All I heard was womp, womp, womp. And I just was thinking about pink buttercream roses. So as I got older, I started to look, you know, back in the day, you have to remember, this is going back into the 70s and stuff like that. There was no information like there is now. So anything you thought about, it really had to come from you know, or you can go to the library, pull out books. But most cookbooks back then did not have colored pictures throughout the book. They'd have 4 or 5 colored pictures in the middle, and then it would be all, you know, print. So you really had to get creative. You just had to do it. And then as I got older, I started to self-teach. And when I started having kids and I wanted to make them fancy cakes, I decided to take a cake decorating class. And I'm lefty. So back then, they hired local bakers to teach the classes. Good baker doesn't make a good teacher. You know, there's 2 different jobs or whatever. So everything I did concaved in. All my roses were turning in, everything. And finally, when we since then moved up here, that all happened in New York. And the local, believe it or not, I think it was Ames, I think, down there, needed a Wilton cake decorator. So I just sent in some pictures of the stuff I did, and they said they'll be willing to train me, and then I'll start my Wilton cake decorating career. And there is where I learned that there's actually different tips for left-handed people, so that you can make roses that open up and stuff like that. So I started teaching way back when Ames was there on, you know, down on Lower Main. And then they closed up, and then I was teaching whatever was on 611 and Michael's and AC Moore, and I was lugging my KitchenAid to all these places, literally working full time. And then that's when I decided to open the store, to keep my KitchenAid in one spot and let people come to me. But yeah, so my whole life started out with my dad being at the bakery. And then, of course, I begged him from the time I was like 9 until I was 15 to get me a job there. And I finally did get a job there. But bakers didn't want to, you know, women didn't go in the kitchen. It was in the baker's kitchen. It was always men. So he would talk to me about it. He'd whip a rose in front of me, but he was not teaching me anything, the owner of the bake shop, because it's only for guys back then. I had to be in the front serving coffee and, you know, keeping the counters clean. So I had a little bit of background on setting up for a bake shop.
And then fast forward here, 2025, like Amanda said, just growing into this successful business, not 1, but 2 businesses. How does that feel for you today?
It's wild. I mean, it's rewarding, and you just sometimes sit back and you look at all the things we've had to go through, and you think, how did I do that? How did we get through that? But I think, yeah, with just good communication and working together.
And family values. We treat our businesses, the customers that walk in the door are extended family. And we are going to treat them just like we would treat a cousin or an aunt or anything else. We respect them that they chose to come to us. And I think that makes a big difference this day and age. It's rare to have a couple of stores in a town to have people who are reaching out to you and being grateful that you walked in the door.
And I think it's a challenge in small towns across the country that sometimes people come in with big ideas, big visions, big plans, and unfortunately, a few months or a year or a few years later, it's an empty storefront. It's not for everybody for many reasons, but you guys have been too dependable. I mean, we have many in downtown Stroudsburg, but you guys have been two dependable small businesses. I mean, especially with all the challenges, how do you keep the doors open for this long?
I would say you've always taught us to be flexible. And if there's one thing we definitely learned is that we have to adjust. We are selling things in Pocono soap that if you asked me, or is this going to be a bestseller for you 5-6 years ago, I would have been like, what are you talking about? I'm never going to sell that. Or like vinyl stickers, for example. We sell so many vinyl stickers, right? And that's a really popular item. And if we didn't just say, oh, we're going to try it, we wouldn't be here. Because if you just keep putting up blocks, you're not going to get anywhere. And you have to go with what's going to change. And also, 11 years ago was a whole different time than what it is right now. So what's popular changes. So, and even in bakery and classes, there's so many different changes in this current marketplace that as a business owner, you have to be flexible.
You do. And a lot of people open up, they have one good recipe, a great brownie recipe or whatever, and then they think they're going to build a business on that. You can. People have built, Mrs. Fields cookies or whatever. They all have businesses like that. But if you're going to do it on a little main street in a rural area, you have to be willing to do what the customer wants, not necessarily what you think they want.
Well, and Amanda, talking about being flexible and adaptable, you certainly did that, pivoting from kitchen chemistry to the Main Street Bakery. I feel like in this day and age, people want an experience, a memory, and you're really offering that for all ages with offering classes, public and private.
Yes. I'm so excited and very grateful that I was able to do that, because a lot of people, when they open a business, they can't just turn that fast on a dime. But I was able to do that because I was teaching classes already, so I did have a little bit of a following. And my husband didn't want to deliver my wedding cakes anymore. And I was not hiring somebody to deliver my, 5-tiered wedding cakes. So the timing was right again. And, we were led to switch things up, and it worked out perfectly. And it's a slower pace, and I love it. I can go visit, family. I'm not going to my family events with my hair sticking in the air full of buttercream. I'm able to actually prepare instead of flying out the door and hope I at least get there before it's half over.
When you had kitchen chemistry, I ordered my gender reveal cupcakes here. So you were part of my experience, knowing that I was having a son. And then, was it last year or the year before, I brought him for his slime making class here under the Main Street Bakery. So I imagine that you really are like part of those family memories for people.
Yeah, we have all the time, we have people coming in and telling us, I've been doing Cupcake Lab since I opened up. That's 15 years. So I get people who are adults who come in with their children to come to Cupcake Lab because they did it as a child. And it's really touching. And when I had the fire, I can't even tell you how many people reached out, customers who reached out to me and was grateful and helpful, wanted to help me because they felt bad. So it worked out.
What do you guys love about being a mother-daughter duo by working together with your businesses? What are some of the positives with that?
It's definitely nice to you're never alone. You always have somebody to bounce ideas off with, or if you have questions and you're thinking, even though the businesses that we run are very different, at the end of the day, like she said, we have very similar core values and main goals. So I think that's a really big one, is just having a partner that you can talk to and know that we're on the same ground and we're trying to do the same thing.
Right. And you have to, as a mother, I also have to give her space to grow as her own individual business person. So we have different ideas sometimes, but we both have to allow each other to do our own thing in our own little shops, as long as it's working out, you know what I mean? And she's a smart girl.
Are there any challenges? Because I don't know if I could work with my mom.
Well, I would say the other side of what I just said is that you have no choice but to work it through, right? So if you're disagreeing on something, You can't, you can't just not talk to them for 3 weeks. You have to work it through. So the challenges I would say would be that you're forced to be a communicator, and you're forced to discuss things that even if you don't feel like it, you have to talk about it because you have to move on because you're working together.
And you have to be open to both sides of the coin. You can't just come in and say, it's not going to work, that's it, I'm not dealing with it. You can't do that. You have to break that egg, per se, and say, okay, we have to come to a middle ground and see where it's going to meet. But thankfully, we don't really have that many issues. I give her space, she gives me my space.
Yeah, and it's been I was a pretty easy teenager even, so I didn't give her a hard, we never really fought a lot as a mother-daughter, so I think we started on pretty solid ground.
And Lisa, you opened when you were in your 50s, so maybe this applies more to Amanda, but surveys show that a lot of female entrepreneurs open their small businesses later in life once their kids are all grown, and they have more time, but your kids are younger and were younger when you started Pocono Soap. So how do you find that balance between like your personal life and being a mom, but also being this entrepreneur?
That's probably one of the most difficult things about this type of business, because it very much seems like the amount of effort you put in every day is a direct reflection of your business. So, and your brain is constantly working. So how many times I purposely leave my computer in the car or force myself to not think about it because I'm thinking, what can I do, or what new ideas? But then I don't want to miss out spending time with my family. So as a mom, it's just really holding yourself to, those standards of, this is essentially family is more important. So I'm not going to miss that out because I might make a really great Instagram post if I follow this idea. I'll do that tomorrow and do what I was going to do tonight. And that was not always easy. That was like years coming when I realized like, whoa, I'm burning out big time and I need to just draw some boundaries. So that's definitely the challenge. And I'm sure that many small business owners relate to that.
One of the benefits, though, of having a small business when you have little kids is you can stash them in the office while you're working, you know what I mean, and do things like that. Ben and Elizabeth were always over there and putting stickers on things and whatnot. So you also give your kids, another generation, the self-starting thing. Like, you got to keep yourself busy. I got to do this now, so you have to do that or whatever.
Right, and exposure to just so many different things. My kids are preteens now, or my son is 14, but they love helping, and it's like they get to come sometimes and work on different projects, and I feel it's really good exposure for them.
It is. And don't forget, you used to come. Before this, I was a regional manager with a party plan, and I had to drive all over the place and do parties, and she would come and sit there with her little calculator and help take orders and things like that.
Yeah.
You were 10 years old, 9
I know,
years old.
that's crazy.
So it's kind of in you. If you're an entrepreneur, it's in you, and it's going to come out some way, whether you're selling lemonade on the corner or be a frustrated adult and not follow your dream. You kind of take baby steps and do what, follow your gut, but take baby steps safely.
And I think that's a great segue into my last question, because like you said, I'm sure there's so many people out there who are, keeping their stable job because it's familiar to them, but maybe they do have this dream like you did about, going off course and opening their own business, whether it's a mother-daughter duo or, a father-son or just family wanting to go into business together. Is there any advice that you have for anyone who wants to follow in your footsteps?
It does fall under the same thing, baby steps. Like I was teaching classes out of my house. I was going out 2 or 3 nights a week and lugging all my stuff everywhere. I always had visions. I always researched. I always, if there was a SBA course somewhere, I was taking it just to get my feet wet. It was, I started looking at 20 and it was 50. It was 30 years of education. I still have my box of my original ideas and all my little newspaper clippings of class ideas and things like that. And I just kept plugging away, and then all of a sudden it all just came together at the most perfect moment.
I would say definitely do your research and know your market. Like she said, just go on. There's so much information about just some simple things you should do before you open a business. And I feel like if we would have done those things, a lot of things would have been easier. But Yeah, I mean, and communication, and just really knowing what is your vision, what is your 5-year plan and your 3-year plan, and how are you going to get there?
Right. Yeah. And again, opening up a storefront is expensive. You have to have enough finances to cover that. But if you work from your home, get licensed and everything else, and do a couple of classes and build up financial savings, then when you're ready, you'll know when you're ready, and because it'll just start to get too hard to keep doing it from your home, and you'll have financial success because you're getting so
And
many
I feel like that
classes.
happens a lot, even with people who make products and things. They start making it, selling it, and they're like, well, I've got something. But there's definitely a transition from owning a store. But it's definitely doable. It just requires a little research and time.
So in 20 years from now, are we going to see are your kids going to be running the Main Street Makery in Pocono Soap? What's the future?
Yes, who knows? We are always, we never know. At this point, with everything we've been through, we're ready for anything. So.
Yeah. Yep, that's for sure.
Where can people find more information about the Main Street Makery in Pocono Soap?
Social media, we're on Instagram and Facebook, and themainstreetmakery.com and pocono-soap.com.
Anything else we're missing?
No, that's it. It was fun.
Well, thank you, Lisa and Amanda. We appreciate your time. This is Brianna Strunk with Pocono Mountains Podcast. We'll see you next time, and happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there.
Pocono Soap and Main Street Makery, making Mother's Day and every day special in the Poconos. Thanks for listening to Pocono Mountains Podcast. We'll have a new episode each week, highlighting lots of the fun things you can experience while you're visiting the Poconos. Subscribe and leave a review and or comment on whatever platform you listen.
In the Pocono Mountains, we always want you to feel like a guest in our home, our mountain home.
Our 4 diamond homes.
You can dream,
Relax, we'll do it all for you.
do it your own way. Choose a vacation rental home.
Our water parks are a splash of world class. We don't have to clean all these rooms, right?
The Pocono Mountains, where you're treated like a guest in all our mountain homes. Visit PoconoMountains.com.
We're back. Thanks for listening to Pocono Mountains Podcast. I'm Jim Hamill. Now for a Pocono Mountains Podcast Extra. I mentioned those moms at Woodlock, Dusty and Ellen. I've known them all my life, and now Dusty is a proud mom too. Here's a listen back to the Pocono Mountains magazine story with them from a few years ago. Enjoy. Hey everyone, Jim Hamill here, and in the Pocono Mountains, May means that flowers are in bloom. And here at Woodlock Pines Resort, this place is immaculate every springtime, and especially because of the mother-daughter gardening team that makes this place look impeccable each and every year. Happy Mother's Day to everyone out there. Anyone who has spent time at Woodlock can attest. This is a place of beauty. And behind all the gardens, perennials, holiday decor, and all, is the gardening mother-daughter duo of Ellen and Dusty.
So many people like, oh, I could never work with my mother.
Yeah.
Come on, I'm fun.
You are.
Ellen Dunn has 20 years as head gardener at the various Woodlock properties. Dusty came on board 16 years ago. And each and every year, through every change of seasons, they're together on the job.
We've been doing this so long together that we just kind of know what needs to be done.
Yep. Hey, hand me a shovel, I said. How's that? That's good, right?
We both have our parts that we do, and we just jump out and we dig in and do it.
On this day, Ellen and Dusty and their coworker Kathy are preparing for the Easter holiday weekend at the resort,
Okay, see you on the next rock.
making the iconic entrance look as welcoming as it does.
Our summer flower order is coming next week, so we need to get the pansies planted.
Whether they're digging in the dirt or hauling heavy planters, Ellen and Dusty have formed a bond deeper than any roots can go. And that's true for the relationship they also have to Woodlock and its guests.
It's a good feeling, and then you have families coming here to enjoy the resort. And, you know, when they find out that we're a mother-daughter team, they just love it, you know, and they're just happy to see that.
For Ellen, being a mom is her biggest accomplishment, she says, and working with flowers also brings her a lot of happiness. Doing both together is a bonus. And soon, Dusty will be able to say the same.
So in the fall, we have a big event happening, and she won't be here for a while.
Oh, right, yeah.
Dusty's going to have a baby.
This mother-daughter gardening tag team admit it can get testy at times to work with family.
It's good.
We do fight sometimes, and I'll admit I'm the stubborn one, and, you know, I stick to my guns sometimes too much, and then, you know, it might turn into a fight, but I think we're pretty good at, you know, coming back around. And
We do, always.
But when they both look at how fortunate they are to work here at Woodloch together, doing what they love.
I'm grateful that I get to work with my mom every day.
And there she goes.
Yep.
Ellen and Dusty are blessed beyond measure to share time together, creating a beautiful backdrop for Woodloch families and their own family. Jim Hamill for the Pocono Television Network. Woodloch Resort, just one of the many locations in the Poconos where moms are both making an impact and able to celebrate with their loved ones this upcoming holiday. Happy Mother's Day. We hope you enjoyed Pocono Mountains podcast. Please remember to subscribe anywhere podcasts are available. Come visit us in the Pocono Mountains. Plan your trip today.